In the small, cramped room, all the sounds seemed to fade away, leaving only the creaking of the old wooden bed, as if witnessing every moment of our most sublime moments. My fingers slid gently, travelling to new lands on her body. She closed her eyes, enjoying the heavenly moments like the ninth cloud that she had never had before. Welcome to our channel. If you love engaging and emotional love stories, then come to our channel. Here we will bring you stories full of surprises, touching and engaging. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any interesting stories. In today's video, we would like to present to you a story called Sister-in-Law and Brother-in-Law, narrated by Jane. Please watch along. My name is Cooper. There are 3 men in my family, 2 of whom are on the other side of the world. The first is my father. He joined the army and died at sea. I heard that my father fought and was taken away forever, never to return. My brother also went to sea. He did not join the army but went to work. He followed the coal ships here and there. I don't remember how many years he hasn't been home. It's been several years since he married my sister-in-law, but it seems like he's only been home twice. My mother was a gentle, quiet woman who never left the village. All year round, she only stayed at home with the fields, the buffaloes, and the chickens. Now there was my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law was just over 20 years old and had been married to my brother for several years, but still had no children. I overheard the villagers gossiping that because my sister-in-law could not give birth, my brother had run away with another woman. I was too young to understand, but when I heard those gossips, my sister-in-law stayed up all night. My sister-in-law's mother's house is on the other side of the river. It looks close, but it takes an hour to walk there. Every time she goes there, my sister-in-law stands on the dike looking back at her mother's hometown. The saddest part is at sunset when her shadow drags along the dike, looking very sad. My house is a thatched house, one of the poorest in this poor neighbourhood. There is nothing valuable in the house, and I see that every house in this village along the dike is the same. Even the design of the houses here is the same. Every house is a low 3-room house. The main room in the middle is the altar. There is a table and chairs to sit and drink water and eat. On the other 2 sides are 2 beds. In addition, every house has 2 rooms, so it is a 3-room house. My mother and my sister-in-law, Ella, each live in a room on the left, while I sleep in the middle room. When summer comes, I open the 2 windows where I lie and look out into the garden. The wind blows in, cool and dim. And at night the sound of insects chirping outside echoes in, hurting my ears. Behind my house is the garden, in front is the field, in the distance is a black line. Opening the door is the mountain range that I have known since childhood. Once in the summer, my friends and I walked up to those distant hills to pick ripe, sweet simberries. After eating too much, when we got home, none of us could poop. I went to school in an average class, not a good student, but not too bad to fail a grade. Thinking back to those days, harvest season was also a happy season for the children in our village. When the harvest was over and the roots were still bare, the whole group would go together to catch grasshoppers and grasshoppers to roast and eat. In the middle of May and June, the weather was like fire, so at 5 a.m. everyone in the family started going to the fields. I also woke up at 4 a.m., ate a bowl of fried rice and went to the fields to harvest rice with my mother and sister Ella. After harvesting, I carried the rice home. When the rice arrived home, it became golden grains in the yard, and tall stacks of hay for the rooster to crow loudly to welcome the new day. How dusty and dear the harvest season was. This time I was on summer vacation, so I stayed home to help my mother and sister Ella, mainly doing farm work. That evening, after dinner, I took the opportunity to take my basket out to the ditch to look for frogs. At around 11 p.m. I walked along the field path home, not going through the yard, but going to the well to throw the basket of frogs there and then take a bath to cool off. From evening until now, my body was filled with the smell of frogs, mud, and sweat. I walked near the well and heard the faint sound of water splashing as if someone was taking a bath. Strange, it definitely wasn't my mother at this hour, because she didn't have the habit of taking a bath late. Could it be Ella? Usually she would finish bathing at 7 to 8 p.m. I gently walked towards the corner of the garden, where there was a large banana bush, to get closer to the bathroom. The banana bush was about 13 to 14 meters from the bathroom. Then I looked up. Oh my God. I froze, my eyes widened, my heart pounding. Before my eyes was a white, clean back, probably Ella's. I had never seen her so beautiful. With that figure, I was sure it was her. I couldn't remember what day it was today, but the moon was bright and clear. I was fascinated watching Ella pour water from a coconut shell, her hair tied up high, revealing a white patch at the back of her neck. The well water was probably cool in the summer night. I, a 15-year-old boy, the age of puberty, looked at her before my eyes, beautiful and magical. I imagined her as a fairy descending to earth, bathing on a moonlit night, just like the fairy tale my mother used to tell me. One hand was still holding tightly onto the banana tree, my eyes still fixed on her soft back. Suddenly she stood up and turned around. I opened my mouth wide, my heart pounding like a drum. Only then did I see her clearly. She was a country girl who worked hard all year round, yet her curves were so beautiful that it broke my heart. My heart trembled with excitement. She turned around. Of course she couldn't see me. Because I was hiding behind the banana bush, I could see her clearly under the moonlight. I stood still in the banana bush until she finished putting on her black lace panties, and then she went in. A few minutes later, I pretended to have just come back from frog hunting. I went to the well and scooped up bucket after bucket and poured it over my head and body. I had been awake since morning thinking about her. Cooper, what's wrong with you? Get up so I can carry you home. Hearing her urging, I was stunned. On the way home, I thought a lot. Why do I have such thoughts? I was in puberty, changing every day, but that was my sister. I felt my mind was so dark at that time. In the evening, after dinner, I noticed that she still hadn't showered. After listening to her talk to her mother, I realized that she had taken advantage of the night pounding to shower, and she was sweating profusely as if she had showered. Is Cooper going frog hunting tonight, Mum? I asked. What for, Mum? If not, then take the opportunity to thresh rice with your sister. What else can you do? You go ahead. I can do it alone, Ella interrupted. I half wanted to stay home and help her, half wanted to go. Usually, I would not come back until after midnight when I went frog hunting, and sometimes I would leave until 1 a.m. I would imagine her bathing and want to watch. Yes, there are a lot of frogs these days. I'll go a few more times and then come back in a few days. Today seems to be the 16th day of the lunar calendar. The 16th moon is as beautiful as the maiden in Piper's song. Under the moonlight, I am absent-mindedly standing on the silent dike. The deserted shore is only filled with the chirping of crickets. The river surface under the moonlight is as beautiful as a dream. I lie on the dike, listening to the chirping of crickets, my eyes looking up at the bright moon, while my mind is daydreaming and imagining all sorts of things. I think about life, about the village, about the people around me. I think about Ella. She is 25 to 26 years old this year. Compared to her friends of the same age, they already have children, but my sister is still single. My mother is very sad because she has had a daughter-in-law for many years, but still has no grandchildren to hold. But I think Ella is probably even sadder. I was absent-mindedly thinking as I walked back across the deserted field. It was probably around 11 p.m. by now. If it was like yesterday, I would be able to watch her bathing again, to look at her youthful body again. Just thinking about it made me excited. I ran as fast as I could. That year I was 16 years old. I had grown up noticeably, not as immature as before. This year I entered grade 10, had to study at a high school about 5 kilometers from home. My family did not have a bicycle, so every day I had to wake up at dawn to go to school. When the rooster crowed at 3 o'clock, Ella woke up even earlier than me. She lit a fire to heat up a pot of cold rice or fried rice with pork fat for me to eat. When she started going to the fields, I also grabbed my school bag and left the house. On days when I couldn't get a ride on a bicycle from the boys in the village, I had to walk from home to school. Walking and running took almost an hour. But it was okay. I walked and inhaled the pipum scent of the fields and wind. On both sides of the road I could feel the morning scent when the sun peeked out from behind the bamboo rows in the distance. Winter came early this year. I don't know why I don't enjoy winter anymore. Maybe because winter makes me wake up earlier in the cold. This winter, my friends don't play with the fire to roast sweet potatoes like every year, or simply because of a reason that is both childish and adult. Winter is cold. Every time Ella goes to take a bath, she pulls the curtain to cover the bathroom door so I can't see anything. I remember that day was a winter day when the northeast monsoon was blowing. I came home from school around noon. My lips were purple all over because I had been careless and worn only a thin blouse to school that morning. When I got home, I didn't go upstairs right away, but stopped by the kitchen to see if there was any cold rice to warm my stomach. I heard voices talking upstairs. It seemed to be Daniel and Ella. I tiptoed to the back of the house and put my ear to it. It was definitely Daniel. He said, "I talked to my mother this morning. I'll go." Daniel's voice was firm. I heard Ella's voice trembling. "Why don't you stay home with Mom and me?" "Oh dear," Daniel interrupted. "When will I ever get ahead in this village? They look down on me for being poor. This time I'm going far away, and I don't know when I'll be back." Ella asked, "But where are you going? Are you going to leave me like that?" Daniel replied, "I'm going to work." "Why do you ask so many questions? My mind is made up." Ella was silent. Daniel hesitated for a moment and then said, "As for you, I'll set you free. Go wherever you want." Ella seemed shocked by what Daniel said. So was I. She wondered, "What do you mean? I don't understand." "Why are you so stupid? Don't you understand what I'm saying?" Daniel said grumpily. Daniel was known for being uneducated, grumpy, and rude. His family was poor, so the villagers looked down on him. He was so angry that he vowed never to return to this village until he was rich. I heard Ella crying. She said in sobs, "You are so heartless. You married me, and now you tell me to go wherever I want. Do you know how much I suffered when you were away for so many days?" Ella said with a choked voice. "Well, I don't know what you think," Daniel said grumpily, then left Ella crying in the room and walked out. I ran out to meet him in the middle of the yard. I had just asked a question when Daniel interrupted me. "You're still a kid, what do you know?" he said as he walked straight to the gate. As if remembering something, he suddenly called out to me, "Cooper, come out here and I'll tell you something." I went out the gate. He grabbed my hand and stuffed a handful of money into it, saying, "Take this money to buy a new bicycle to go to school. Work hard at home, don't fool around. Remember to take care of your mother. When things are okay, I'll write you a letter, okay? I'm leaving now." After saying that, he walked away, leaving me standing there, stunned in the yard. Inside the house, in 2 rooms, were 2 women sobbing. I heard some people in the village say that they saw Daniel carrying a woman who looked like she was from the city on a motorbike towards the street. After Daniel came back and left like a gust of wind, my mother and Ella were sad and cried for a day or 2. Then everything went back to normal. Ella still lived at my house like before, although she didn't say it. I knew she would never leave me and my children and go anywhere. When the weather was about to turn to spring, another Tet holiday came. Every year, my village held a very happy festival. Sister Ella sang well and was famous in the village and commune. This year she asked my mother's permission to join the art troupe. During the day she worked in the fields. In the evening, after dinner and bathing, the family and the village practiced singing cheo. She sang cheo very well. Her voice was clear and full of emotion, captivating many people. Among them, I am sure there were 2 people who liked her very much. One is musician Nathan. His name is funny, but his main job is playing the trumpet at funerals, and sometimes he also sings at weddings. The type of music he plays best is probably the trumpet and the monochord, and sometimes he can play the organ. As I said, he rarely sings at weddings, but for many years in the profession, he has mainly worked at funerals. Wherever Nathan appears, there will always be someone who has just passed away. My whole village is afraid of Nathan singing, so he is almost 30 this year and still has no wife. In the village it is clearly miserable, and people avoid him even when they swim across the river to the next village. Talented, but his love life is bumpy. Several times I saw Nathan lurking outside the gate of the bamboo bushes next to the gate of Mrs. Hong's house, the grandmother of my neighbour Grace. Every time the dog barked loudly, Mrs. Hong would slowly walk out of the house, and when she saw Nathan's shadow, she would chase him away. Mrs. Hong is old, but her eyes are sharp. She could still see Nathan lurking from so far away. That day, but if he doesn't fall, she will push the dog out and bite him. Another person who was in love with Ella was Teacher Man. He was from the neighbouring village, but taught in my village. Teacher Man was gentle. People in the village were not afraid of him like Nathan, but honestly speaking, he was not very handsome. He was short and had an ugly face. I didn't know how to describe it. I just knew that his face looked a bit dull and stupid. With all respect, people still called him cold. That time, Nathan rode his bike to the gate of my house at night, calling loudly, "Ella, go to the performance practice." When Ella heard the call, she was startled with fear. I saw that and said, "Hey, sister, Nathan invited me to the performance practice. Are you going to go now? He's standing outside, the dog barking is deafening." She replied, "You go tell him to go, I'll be able to walk myself." I went out the gate and saw Nathan looking around outside. "Hey kid, chase the dog away for me, it's really annoying." "Yes, Ella told you to go ahead, she will be able to go soon." "Hey, it's time to practice. If we don't go, when will we?" "Okay, you go ahead, or else my dog will rush out and bite you and I won't be responsible." "Then come in here." Nathan pedalled away while muttering something under his breath, but I couldn't hear clearly because the dog was barking too loudly. I entered the house just as Ella finished washing her hands in the well yard. She said, "Will Cooper come out to watch the performance with me tonight?" "Are you outside the communal house?" I also love singing and dancing, especially folk songs. While I was thinking, she said, "Going alone, I'm afraid of ghosts." I knew Ella was very afraid of ghosts, so I agreed to go with her. "I'll drop you off here and go hang out with the kids in the neighbourhood under the banyan tree," I said, and ran off. We all sat there telling each other ghost stories, occasionally screaming loudly. At around 10:30, when my sister finished practicing, she called me out and we both went home. "Hey, why don't you come in and watch me sing? What are you doing sitting out there?" she asked me. "Well, my friend is telling a ghost story. Do you want to hear it? I'll tell it to you." I didn't give her a chance to answer and immediately threatened her. The ghost story I just told is that Kuong said that the other day, when he came back from frog hunting, he saw a girl wearing pure white clothes and a tongue as long as her knees hanging from the tree. I don't know if it's true or not. Ella was so scared that she clung to me. "Stop it, don't talk nonsense." I threatened her a little more. When you pass the kapok tree, look up to see if it's there." "Okay, I won't look. You go down, I'll take you." "I'm not sitting in the back. I'm scared. What if magic pulls me up the tree? I'll die." "Really, sister," I teased. Okay, get off. I'll give you a ride." I had no choice but to get off and sit behind her so she could take me home. The country road was deserted. Only the sound of crickets chirping could be heard. My sister and I creaked on the bike as we headed towards the end of the village. We were about to reach the big cotton tree. She didn't look around, just kept pedaling as fast as she could. I gently held onto the sides of her shirt. The bumpy road with many potholes almost made me fly off several times. "Slow down, I'll shoot it out now. Hold on tight." Every time she went into a bumpy place, we both bounced. My whole body ached. I got closer and closer to her. I could smell her hair. "You just washed your hair today. Do you have piperm?" "Piperm? A lot, sis." She was so busy talking to Piperm that she forgot to slow down. I teased Ella again. "Why are you walking so slowly? There's a girl in white chasing you from behind." "Ah!" she screamed and used all her strength to pedal the bike, bouncing on the road. I almost fell off. "Oh my gosh, I'm about to fall. Let's hold her." I instinctively hugged her tightly. It felt so warm and soft. My hand touched her soft belly. I have never had such a strange feeling since I was a child. My sister did not pay attention. She was busy driving because she was afraid of ghosts. When we got home, she said, "What a devil." Only then did I suddenly remember that I was still hugging her tightly. I did not want to let go of this feeling at all, a feeling of happiness that followed me even into my dreams that night. In the days after Tet, the rice was almost all harvested, leaving only vast fields of bare bamboo roots. On sunny afternoons when I didn't come home, my sister told me to tie the buffaloes to feed, and she went to a high mound, chose a bunch of green bamboo roots, used a knife to cut a bunch of bamboo enough for 2 people to lie on, then spread a layer of dry bamboo on the ground and covered it with fresh bamboo to block the sun. When I finished tying the buffaloes, my sister had just finished making the bamboo hut. She looked at me and smiled. "Does it look like an ideal hut?" Then, without anyone telling her, she lay down first, and I lay down next to her. Occasionally she would look at me and smile. I would smile too, and we both fell into an afternoon nap. There were days when I woke up first, and she was still fast asleep. She lay straight, breathing evenly. I just wished I could put my hand on those breasts. Then she sat up and looked at me, smiled, patted my head. "How was it? Did you sleep well?" I came home after dinner. When it was dusk, the neighbours turned on the lights. The full moon of January was also sparkling at the river's head. The 2 sisters sat under the straw tree. The smell of early season straw smoke wafted from somewhere. Strong piperm. We sat under the straw again. Lately, I was more attached to my sister. The days when she was away from home, I missed her. Suddenly she turned to ask, "So, when you go to school in the district, do you have a girlfriend yet?" "No, my classmate, but my lover." I smiled and replied, then stammered, "No, not yet." I asked her again, "How old were you when you and Daniel fell in love?" "Well, I'm 15, the same age as Grace now," she replied softly. "What about Daniel?" "Well, 16, the same age as you are now," she said, and smiled. One evening, the 2 sisters invited each other to pick corn on the beach at night, standing on the dike, looking down at the sparkling river water. For the first time in my life, I discovered that she was a very beautiful girl, more beautiful than in my dreams. She wore a simple country dress, hugging her slim and charming figure. She was tall, her hair was tilted and fluttering in the wind. She looked very beautiful. Every time a light wind blew, her hair also flew up to her chest in the wind. She was a girl with the curved lines of the letter S of Vietnam. I just stared blankly, forgetting my main job. Suddenly she turned her back and caught my eyes. She quickly reached out to grab the hem of her shirt. Her face was red. She lowered her head in shame and turned away, not daring to look. Summer was coming. Somewhere the cicadas were calling for summer. Something happened after that completely changed the lives of my sister and I. That day, it was almost noon. The sun was blazing hot. It was harvest time, and everyone was busy in the fields. I carried a rice field home first. Just as I put it down in the yard, I heard someone call, "Cooper, come out and see. It seems like Ella fell down on the village road." I quickly threw down the rice load and ran as fast as I could in the direction people pointed. I didn't know if Ella had really fallen, but at that time she was also carrying rice home. When we got there, she was helped by a few people to sit on the side of the road, her face pale. People said she had sunstroke and fell down on the road. Poor thing. After a while, she gradually regained consciousness, but her face was still grimacing in pain. I asked her if she still had pain anywhere. Her arms and legs were in so much pain that she couldn't answer. Some people in the village advised her, "Let's take her home to rest." She suddenly fell down. Hearing that, she said softly, "Let me sit here and rest for a while." "I won't let you carry me home," I said firmly. "I can go by myself." "No, you have sunstroke and your legs hurt. Let me carry you." I helped her stand up and bent down to carry her. Because I had never carried a woman before and her arms were hurting and she couldn't hold on, I was a bit unsteady at first. She asked softly, "Can you carry me?" "Okay," I replied firmly. I carried her home by a shortcut, just as my mother arrived. I put her on the bed so she could make some essential oil, while I ran to make her a glass of lemon and salt water to drink. Seeing her lying on the bed, breathing evenly, her eyebrows slightly furrowed, probably because of pain, I felt extremely sorry for her. In the afternoon she woke up. The heat stroke had passed, but her arm was still sore. My mother said, "Maybe your sister has sprained her arm. Later, Cooper will take her to Mr. Lang's house to ask him to massage some leaves." I said, "Yes." The two of us rode together on the old bicycle on the fragrant Pipeham hometown road. She could only hold on to me with one hand. The other hand was too sore to hold on. "Go slowly. One of my arms hurts and I can't hold on." "Yes, ma'am," I replied. I walked slowly along the dike, absorbed in the vast space of the lotus ponds on both sides of the road. My sister's hand hurt so she couldn't do any field work. I did all the hard work out there, from harvesting rice to carrying it home. My mother loved my sister so much that she told me to try my best, which was fine with me because I loved her very much. About 5 days later, after dinner, I went to look for frogs. When I got back to the yard at around 11 o'clock, I saw Ella threshing rice with one hand. I asked Ella in surprise, "Why don't you go inside? Your hand hurts. Why are you threshing rice? You can do it." "Let me do it, let me do it. You should go rest." The two sisters threshed rice together as the golden grains of rice raced to fall onto the yard. My sister and I were soaked in sweat. It was past 11 p.m. and I urged, "It's late. You should go rest first." "Yeah, but I haven't showered yet. I'll wait for you to come home." "Why did you wait for me to come home?" "Then wait for me to come back so I can get you some water." "Your hand hurts, so how can you get water?" "Oh, right. You didn't remind me. I just forgot. Let me go to the well to get some water." I went to the well to get some water, and in a flash, 2 large aluminum basins were filled and placed in the bathroom. "Can you see if it's okay?" I asked her, looking into the bathroom. The moon was dim today, but I could still see quite clearly. "Okay, baby." Then you go take a bath. I'll go inside and drink some water. It's too hot here, I said, and pretended to walk away, intending to go around the back of the house and hide behind the banana bushes to watch her take a bath. Before I could leave, I heard her call out softly, "Cooper!" "Yes, ma'am." She stood at the bathroom door, hesitating as if she wanted to say something, her face slightly red under the moonlight. "Stay here. I need you for a moment," she said, and went into the bathroom. I followed her to the door. She called again, "Come in." I was shaking all over, not knowing what would happen next. At that moment, I could only follow her words like a robot. "Close the door," she whispered, as if afraid someone would hear. There was no one else in my house but my mother, but she was often tired, so she went to bed early every night. She was prone to catching a cold at night, so she never left her room after 9 p.m. Every night Ella left a chamber pot in my mother's room and took it out early in the morning to empty. I followed her words, lifted the curtain, and closed the bathroom door. My face was stunned when I saw that she had already taken off her outer shirt. My heart was pounding with excitement. I only vaguely heard her say, "Help me unbutton my shirt. My hands are so sore I don't know what to do." She turned her back to me, the first time I got to see her so closely. I kept staring at the white space at the back of her neck, where her hair was covered with sweat. Below was her lace panties. Oh, so seductive. "Hurry up and help me so I can go in and take a bath," she urged. I was still in a daze, as if I was dreaming. "Hey, go in so I can take a bath," she reminded. I lifted the curtain again and closed it for her. I just did it like a machine. My mind couldn't think of anything at that time. "I'll call you when I'm done bathing." Perhaps she thought I was still a child, still a kid, so she asked me to do such a thing now. She had no idea that I was all grown up now. I didn't go inside the house but sat by the well, lost in thought, occasionally hearing the sound of water splashing in the bathroom. Although I was said to be from the countryside, it wasn't like I was completely clueless. At my age, I was curious, and my classmates had already told me all sorts of stories. I had read and learned about men and women, and what a period or a comma was, but I had never experienced it in real life. "Cooper," Ella called out softly, startling me, and my heart started to beat erratically again. "Come help me." "Yes," I said. This time I knew what to do. I quickly lifted the curtain and stepped into the bathroom. I stood very close to her. She had just finished bathing and still had the scent of soap, which was strangely alluring to me. "So, you didn't wash your hair today?" "Yes, my hand hurts. It takes girls a long time to wash their hair, unlike boys. Tomorrow night, if you want to wash your hair, tell me so I can rinse it for you." "Okay, I'll wash it tomorrow night," she said. I had trouble sleeping that night. Ella was so beautiful, so beautiful. Why had Daniel left her like that all these years? Another day passed. Tonight I did not go frog hunting, but stayed home to thresh rice with my sister, and also helped her wash her hair as promised in the afternoon. I saw my sister boil a big pot of soapberry water in the kitchen. My mother washed half of it and left the other half. That night was very hot. There was not even a breath of wind, just threshing rice with my sister, but my shirt was soaked with sweat. It was very uncomfortable. I was only wearing shorts. My mother had gone to bed since 10 p.m. The adults in the village were also asleep at this time. Somewhere in the distance there was only the sound of threshing rice echoing from some house. "It's hot. I'm all sweaty. I'm going to take a shower, Cooper," she said. "Do you want to wash your hair? I'll help you." "Yes, please help me carry the pot of soapberry water from the kitchen to the well." I took the pot of soapberry water and poured it into a basin, then scooped up well water to mix it in. The smell of Pipeham soapberry was strong and pungent, both rustic and familiar. The water boiled from soapberry fruit with lemongrass leaves, and basil leaves created a very distinctive scent of a village girl's hair. Later on, sometimes somewhere in my life, I suddenly saw someone with a similar scent, but it was definitely never as strong as the smell of her soapberry. "Can you pour some water on me?" "Yes, please lower your head." Ella tied her long hair up high, and I discovered another interesting thing. Her hair was so smooth and soft. I used a ladle to scoop water and pour it over her hair to wash it. "Did Daniel ever wash your hair like this before?" I asked. "No, well, I wash my hair myself. He will never wash it for me." I hesitated to ask a question but felt shy. "Ella, why do I want to ask you a question? Answer honestly, okay?" "What are you going to ask that's so scary?" She laughed. "So were you sad when Daniel left you?" My question seemed to make her sad. She was silent for a long time before saying, "Yes, I am sad, very sad. I'm sad too." "Why are you sad?" I'm afraid that one day you won't be at home anymore." She laughed. "Oh my gosh, you're so stupid. If I'm not at home, where am I? I'm afraid you'll marry someone else." "No, I'm not getting married to anyone. I'm staying here with my mom and you." "So you promise?" My words at that time were truly from the bottom of my heart. I was afraid that one day she would follow someone and leave me. I didn't want that to happen at all. After she finished washing her hair, she used a towel to dry her head, and I filled 2 basins with water for her to bathe again. Like last time, I went into the bathroom with her and covered the curtain. I stood facing away, and she faced the wall. I just stood there silently looking at her, one hand unbuttoning her shirt. At that moment, a great love welled up inside me. I couldn't control my words. "Sister Ella, why am I—" "What's wrong?" she asked. "I love you so much. If only Daniel hadn't left you, you wouldn't have suffered so much." I didn't expect the words of a 19-year-old boy to move her so much, maybe because they were sincere. She suddenly turned around and hugged me, only with one arm, but she hugged me tightly, her face pressed against the back of my neck. At that moment, I felt hot tears falling on me. "Cooper, do you love me?" she asked in a trembling voice. "Yes, I love you. I love you so much." She hugged me even tighter, nuzzling her nose into my hair, sniffing the sweat that was running down my face. I didn't understand why she did that. At that moment, I didn't think the girl in my arms was her. Was it love, or just a woman's instinct rising? "Cooper, you can't tell anyone about this, understand?" "Yes," I replied. I felt that perhaps it had been a long time since she had felt the warmth of a man. If I remembered correctly, Daniel had left her 5 years ago, since I was a little boy. All those years she had lacked the warmth of a man. Now that I had grown up, perhaps the recent days we had spent together, my obvious changes had caused her to develop feelings, causing the secrets in her that had drifted away for so many days. Tonight, she had let me know for the first time in my life what it was like to be a woman. It was an endless kiss, mixed with salty tears. "Sister, you are so beautiful," I exclaimed. Hearing that, she asked again, "Cooper, do you love me?" "Yes, I have you, sister," I replied. And so the two of us continued, just like that, together by the well, Nathan's sweet happiness mixed with bitterness and resentment. That night, neither my sister nor I could sleep. I lay on the bed, tossing and turning because of that first time, and my sister didn't know how she was feeling. Was the fire of love still burning inside her? Or was she regretting and tormenting herself? The next day, she seemed to avoid my gaze. She didn't dare to look straight at me, even though we were still normal. Her face was still a little red, like someone who had just come back from the sun. After dinner in the evening, when we were at the well, she said, "Today, You just go frog hunting. I can do the small things. I told her, if you need my help, just tell me. I knew that perhaps my love was too small compared to what she had to endure. I knew she loved me. She loved me. But I couldn't keep her by my side. I couldn't keep that love. I couldn't let her be happy. I was very sad. By that river, at this riverbank, I will try to wait for her to come back. That day, as usual, I followed the old path to the well to cool off, but I saw the bamboo screen at the bathroom door was closed, which meant that Ella was bathing inside. I walked very softly towards it, not making any noise for fear of startling her, thinking it was a stranger and she would be scared. The closer I got, the clearer I could hear Ella's soft voice in the bathroom, and later I accidentally discovered her secret. Going back to that night, I approached the bathroom and put my ear to it. What are you doing inside that takes so long? I thought to myself. I immediately went out, stood close to the screen to look through the tiny hole, but it was enough for me to see the whole image inside the bathroom, although it was not very clear because it was dark. But I saw Ella leaning against the cement wall, the black cement. It turned out that I only now knew that this was the case. She was overcoming the loneliness of her husband's absence. Oh, what is a woman like? I did not dare to step in. All night I lay thinking about her and then fell asleep without knowing it. Another day passed in a busy schedule. I was out in the fields carrying rice from morning to night. When I got home today, I ran into the kitchen to steal some cold rice. Seeing my sister boiling a pot of soapberry water, I knew right away that she would wash her hair tonight. Sure enough, she asked, "Is Cooper going to go frog hunting again today?" "What for?" "I was going to ask you to help me wash my hair like the other day. My hands are still not healed." Thinking about the other day made me feel so happy that I couldn't see frogs or toads at this time. I quickly said, "No, there aren't any frogs to see these days." "Okay, then after dinner, go to the well and help your sister." My mother interrupted. "Cooper, please draw water for your sister. Her hands are sore and she can't draw water. Boys have to be patient. I see you're so lazy, I don't know if you'll be useful in the future." "Yes, Mom, just say that. I'm the most hard-working person in the village. I'll help my sister later. Mum, go to bed early so you won't be tired." "Damn it, you're just a talker, help me later." After finishing dinner and waiting for my mother to go to bed, she started to take a bath. I helped her carry the pot of water to the well like every other time and scooped water into a basin. I used a coconut shell to pour water on her head. While doing so, I watched her. Seeing that I didn't say anything, she raised her head and asked, "What are you thinking about that makes you so absent-minded?" "I wasn't thinking about anything. I was just concentrating on getting water for you," I replied. She just smiled and said, "Practice well so you can wash your wife's hair later." "Probably a long time," I joked. She said again, "I see that all the guys in the neighborhood who are your age have girlfriends. Who is it?" "That guy, Quan and Connor, they kept luring Maeve, Piper and Sadie out to the cornfield to whisper." "Who's Connor? You don't know?" "That's Man Connor, the son of the village elder Owen," I teased her. "Is that the Connor wrist guy, sister?" "That son of a bitch, Owen's son, and no one knows if he's by his wrist or ankle," she said, and we both laughed. "But what were those Connors doing in the cornfield?" I asked. "Who knows? Go ask them." I knew what they were doing there, but I was different. I just wanted to stay home with my sister. "You and Daniel used to go there a lot, right?" I asked. "No kidding," she jumped up and denied. "I knew it. Daniel would have taken you to the cornfield like Maeve, Piper, Sadie, and that friend of his." She didn't know what to say, just smiled and glanced up at me, saw my unusual shorts and blushed. "Okay, I'm done washing up. Can you get me some water for the bathroom?" But drawing water was too simple for me. I pulled a full bridge and 2 big basins for her. I was eager to get into the bathroom like the day before, so I quickly drew them all. She was drying her hair while watching me draw water. She must have been paying attention to me because she smiled slightly. When I got into the bathroom, I felt embarrassed. She saw that and laughed and said, "Oh my gosh, are you married yet that you put on such a great show?" "Nothing." I pretended to be innocent. She asked, "Are you married yet?" "Yes, of course you can." "Oh, let me check how the army is doing," she said, jokingly raising her hand to poke me. "Oh, now I can get married," she said softly. I didn't expect Ella to be so bold. "Oh, don't tease me," I said, blushing. "Okay, help me take off my shirt," she said as she took off her outer shirt. She had just finished washing her hair, so her shoulders were still wet, dripping down her back. I said in a low, slightly trembling voice, "Sister, will you be my girlfriend?" She didn't say anything, just stood still. I knew she agreed. "You're so beautiful." The reward for my words was her response. My first time was taken away like that. The night before was just a kiss, but maybe it was too quick, making me vaguely think it was just a dream. But tonight there were also bitter tears. She let me know the taste of life, the taste of women. I love and care for her very much. If I were Daniel, I would be dignified and take care of the girl I love the most, so she would never have to cry or be sad again. That night, I was restless thinking about her. I was still in a daze until I fell asleep and thought I was dreaming. The next day she was free and started working in the fields instead of my mother, who went to the next village to help out. That day, Ella came home a little early to cook rice and wait for me to come home to eat. After eating, she went into her room to rest. That day, I didn't take a nap anymore, but took out my fishing rod and went out to the pond to fish. It was a sunny and windy summer afternoon. I sat by the bamboo bushes next to the pond. The wind blew, carrying the scent of the fields and the countryside. A strange piper scent. I caught a very big grass carp, intending to ask Ella to fry half of it and cook the other half in sour soup. I ran into the house. Ella was probably still in her room. I went closer and peeked in. Today my parents weren't home, so she was dressed quite coolly. The weather was hot too. The small fan in the corner of the bed couldn't dispel the heat of the summer afternoon. She was lying on the bed, breathing steadily. Her shirt was even shorter than usual. I always watched her shower when she was standing or sitting, but I had never seen her lying like this. It must be too hot. The fan was weak. She wasn't wearing a bra. "It's really hot." I stood in front of the door, sweat pouring down my body. Luckily, I'm not wearing a shirt, otherwise I would be soaked. At that moment, so many dark thoughts came to my mind. My mother wasn't home today. I took a chance to try. After all, she had agreed a few days ago. So what? I thought this time I would sneak into her room. My appearance at that time was just like a thief, tiptoeing and sneaking around. I was nervous. Even though my heart was pounding, I still tried to stay calm. Just one loud noise would startle her awake, and she would lose her appetite. I took a risk and climbed into bed next to her. The strange, seductive scent of a woman attracted me. At that moment, my heart was pounding, and I was breathing heavily right behind her neck. She knew it, but pretended to be asleep. I gently placed a hand on her. She stirred a little and opened her eyes to look at me. "What are you doing up here, Cooper?" Her voice sounded sleepy. "I love you, Ella," I stammered, not knowing if I was crazy or just saying nonsense, but luckily she wasn't angry and turned to me. She was so beautiful. The two sisters continued. After that meal, my sister and I had many secret affairs, sometimes upstairs, sometimes in the bathroom, sometimes on the bamboo groves, sometimes at the beginning of the village, sometimes at the end of the village. Without that, the two sisters couldn't stand it. Since then, she looked much prettier, perhaps because her physiological needs were met. The men in the village looked at her even more adoringly, but she didn't pay any attention. She only thought of me. By the time of the rose season, my sister and I had been together for more than 3 months, and I was starting school. This year, the neighbour Olivia was in 10th grade, so every day she came to my house to get a ride to school. Her family was in a difficult situation. Since she was little, she didn't know who her father was. Her mother carried a big pregnancy to her grandmother's house. After giving birth, her mother only stayed home for a short time and then left her child with her grandmother to raise. Her mother left again and only came back to visit occasionally for a few days. My parents said that Olivia was also miserable but was good and hard-working, and that she had to love others and help her younger siblings. The weather was now winter, and there were no more scorching heat waves. This year I was in a new grade, and I felt a little older. Lately I have noticed that Ella is a bit strange. We are not as close as we were in the summer, partly because I am also busy with school, partly because Ella has been participating in youth and women's work outside the village. Besides farming, raising pigs and chickens, Ella has also participated in some movements. During this time, I have also heard some rumours. I heard that someone said that Ella often went out with musician Nathan. I don't believe those gossipy women at the alley's entrance, but I don't dare ask her. Until one day, when I came home from school, I heard my mother cursing at the end of the alley. She kept saying things like, "You're a worthless woman who follows men around." I went into the house but didn't see Ella. I asked her if she had any rice. I was so hungry. "The rice is cold in the kitchen. Go down and get it yourself," my mother snapped. I went down to the kitchen and saw Ella there. "Is there only rice and water?" I asked. "It's there. Eat," she said, pointing to the tray of rice covered with a lid. "Why don't you put it up in the dining room?" "Eat, I've eaten." I saw her staring at the stove, her hand poking at the burning coals. "What's wrong? Are you crying? What did Mom curse at?" "No, it's just too smoky." After I had eaten a few bowls of rice, she went upstairs and lay down in her room. My mother cursed for a while, then went to bed. She's not the type to curse wrongly. She just talks a lot and uses innuendos. That evening, Ella asked my mother for permission to go to the village hall for a meeting. Although my mother didn't say anything, meaning she didn't agree, she still went. I sat there, taking advantage of finishing my homework to go out with some guys outside the village gate. My mother sat on the porch muttering, "What a naughty and indecent person." I listened for a while until my ears went deaf. "Mum, stop it so I can study," I said. She stopped for a while and then started muttering again. At that time I said to my mother in an annoyed voice, "What's wrong with her that you're talking so badly about her? You're so young, what the hell do you know?" I was so angry that I didn't bother studying anymore and rode my bike to the village entrance to play with some guys in the neighbourhood. I heard them gossiping. "Daniel, you've been gone for too long. Your sister-in-law lacks affection, so she's still hanging out with old Nathan playing the trumpet at funerals." Hearing that, I suddenly felt confused. Why is that? For the past few months, my sister and I have been having an affair. How could Nathan have had any of that? Or is there something there that I don't know about? Honestly, at that time I felt a little jealous. A few days later, in the evening, after finishing school, I did not go out to the village to chat with the children in the village, but instead went to spy. I peeped to see if Ella went to the communal house to meet old Nathan. Several times I saw old Nathan's bicycle parked in the communal house yard. I was curious and took all the air out of the tyres. I also planned to set up a rope trap across the road where old Nathan often went so that he would fall into the pond to feel satisfied, but I still could not do it. I also could not explain my thoughts at that time. Perhaps I was afraid that one day I would lose her, a vague fear in the mind of a young boy. My brother had left her a long time ago, and in everyone's eyes I was still just a kid. No one knew about the story between me and her, and even if they did, no one would accept it. It was a forbidden and perverse love. I knew that in the end, she and I would never be together, but I was still afraid of losing her. Was that a childish love? Every day for the past week, my mother has scolded Ella to the point that she now looks pale as if she is sick. And when she comes home after a long time, she is like a shadow, not saying anything. I asked her, "Ella, are you sick?" "It's okay." "I see you've been pale lately. Do you have any pain?" "No, I'm not." "Ella, if I ask you this question, don't be sad. The villagers will gossip about you and Nathan, okay?" "It's not like that, Cooper," she choked up. "Cooper, do you believe me?" "Yes, I do believe you. I'm suffering a lot." Every time she talked to me, she cried. I loved her so much. Now I was the only one by her side and believed in her. I promised myself that I would protect her to the end. One early winter day, the cool breeze blew gently, bringing a chill from the north. Last night, I heard the radio report that there was a northeast monsoon. My sister told me to remember to wear a warm coat to school in the morning to avoid getting cold. This morning, she brought rice for us to eat together. I asked her why she ate so little. "The rice is too dry, I can't swallow it." But I still found it delicious like every day. I ate 3 bowls in a row before going to school while my sister went to the fields. At noon after school, I didn't see my sister, but I didn't care. The situation at home was terrible for the past few days, so my sister cooked and served the rice, whoever wanted to eat it. She didn't dare to sit down and eat with me, afraid that my mother would say something that would make me unable to swallow the meal, let alone my sister. In the evening, I still didn't see her anywhere. The kitchen was cold and there was no food or water. Since Ella became my daughter-in-law, she rarely left it like that. I ran to Grace's house and called her to the front of the house and asked, "Have you seen Ella since noon?" "No." "Did Olivia see her in the field?" "Oh, how strange. I was in the field all night, but I didn't see her." I was very confused. A feeling of unease came over me, a premonition that something bad was going to happen. At that moment, Grace pulled me back to the haystack. Her face very serious, she asked in panic, "Mr. Cooper, do you have any news?" "What's the news this afternoon?" "I overheard some women gossiping that Ella was pregnant." "What? Ella is pregnant?" "The other day my grandma told me Ella was pregnant, and I told her that she was right." "So you left me for that guy who played the trumpet at funerals and threw flowers at weddings." "I was so sad, but you said you only loved me." And then tears rolled down my cheeks. That rainy afternoon, there was a girl who missed her distant homeland. On a cold winter evening, I still rode my bicycle everywhere looking for her, but the more I searched, the more I couldn't find her. I asked every house in the village, and asked some of her friends from the youth union, but I couldn't find her. I had never felt so worried and insecure. I went out to the cornfield. The wind from the river kept blowing. I rode my bicycle along the path on the dike, going on and on, not knowing when it would end. I went all the way to the next commune, but still couldn't find her. I couldn't sleep all night because she still hadn't returned. I lay awake and thought, could it be that Ella is pregnant with me? She must be, and she hid it from me. Why didn't she tell me? If the villagers found out that Ella and I slept together and got pregnant, what would happen? My mother probably wouldn't be able to lift her head. She probably would never have imagined that her daughter-in-law would be pregnant with her 19-year-old brother-in-law. What would the neighbours and villagers say? They would look at my family with contempt and say the most cruel words. That's how people in the village were. The more I thought, the more confused I became. I felt like I was lost in a jungle with no way out. The more I thought, the more I felt sorry for her. In this story, the most miserable, most humiliated person was definitely her. And right now, I didn't know where she was. The next morning, I woke up early, rode my bike to her house to ask, but everyone said she hadn't returned. So now I didn't know where to find her anymore. I was so sad, not knowing where to go. I sat absent-mindedly on the deserted riverbank, watching the water slowly flowing. On the other side of the river, the mustard flowers were blooming brightly yellow all over the area. I was only afraid of one thing, that maybe she would think of something stupid, just throw herself into that muddy river to bury a secret that no one wanted to mention. The more I thought about it, the more afraid I was. I was angry with myself and felt so sorry for her. In this village, there have been many sad stories about girls, unfortunate, ill-fated girls who ended their lives at the bottom of the river. When I couldn't find her figure anymore, despite trying everything, I only heard people say that they saw her going to the riverbank that morning, and then no one saw her again. I was sick in bed, with a high fever, and lay unconscious for days. I dreamed of my sister. No one, including my mother, could understand why I was so sick. Everyone thought I was in shock because I felt sorry for my sister when I thought she had jumped into the river. I don't know how much longer I would have been sick if I hadn't received her letter. About a month after she left, Olivia came home from school and brought me a letter. "Mr. Cooper, who is this letter from?" I asked. "I don't know." I thought it was from Daniel, but it wasn't. It was from my sister. "Cooper, it's me. I'm sorry for leaving so suddenly and making everyone worry, but I had no other choice. I'm in the Colorado Plateau now. I'm still living for you. If you can, please help me tell my parents back home, when things are stable, I'll write back. As for Mum, just tell her I don't resent her at all. Just tell her I went to the south to find Daniel so she can rest assured. Cooper, you're a good boy. You're too young to understand everything. When you're older, you'll understand my decision. Always be good and help your mum. I love you, the best man." That was one of the 2 letters I received since the day she left. The second letter she sent me was exactly 1 year later, when I started my senior year. The neighbour girl, who was 1 year younger than me, was with me during that time, which made me feel very fond of her, and I knew she also had some pain in her heart. Our story today will stop here. Thank you for taking the time to watch the entire video. I hope that the details and emotions in the story have brought you interesting and meaningful moments. Now, see you in the next videos. Wish you a wonderful day.